Hello and welcome back to Factorio. My name is abucnasty. In today's video, we're picking up where we left off in the last video, and we're going to go through now and combine the red and green circuits that we made specifically to be ratioed just for purple science, and go and bring this now into merging it into this base module that we made that has all the input materials, and then make productivity modules. And finally, then afterwards, what I'm going to want to do is, after the productivity modules are done, get that all in to be crafting the rails and finally the production science packs themselves. And then after that, we're going to UPS benchmark it, and we're going to get into also, I'm going to put it actually into my base, and we'll see it live in production, see if there's also any problems once we get out of the editor, which is always a good thing to do. So with that, let's get into the video. Okay. So now this is a good spot. We got coal all coming in here. We've got everything nicely and belt weaved, connected. So I've got coal on this side and then the crude oil on that side. And that's kind of how I have this set up. So I might relocate this to another place because I had a spot for it over here, but I just never used it. So I can already start removing this here because I don't need that. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. So let's just try to connect all this up. And the reason I've already pre-allocated this to be green is because we're going to be needing to make the next item here, which is just going to be the electromagnetic plant. So because width-wise this is slightly wider, what I'm thinking is we can just like basically slap these somewhere in here like this and have all these beacons touching them. And then this is already close to the 10 ratio just by having these beacons, and then maybe even just slightly moving it up. And then adding one more beacon. Yeah, we're almost at fully 10. So we'll try to get an exact ratio for that, but like we're really close already. And then the thought here is to move this over and then have like a green and red split and the rest of the reds to go down to this build down here, which should be enough. Just have to figure out the balancing of it. So let's try working on that. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, shift, hold down, and Control C, and then grab with the trains. And let's do, it doesn't really matter which side we do, because I've already placed this here. I'm going to place that there just so that it's easier, somewhere out of the way. And let's try to get this all nice and lined up. So we'll start off a little bit further away and we can make it more compact later. So now I will remove all the outputs and from the top as well. And then I will bring this, I don't know, somewhere down here. And I will, for now, just feed it directly into the red circuits down here. And I can do the same thing and feed this just like this here into the red circuits. Great. Making too much, but that's okay downstream. And then what I'm going to do is I want to bring this all the way up. So, and then maybe kind of around or something. I don't know. We'll figure out kind of where that goes. But for now, we'll just do this. And then we'll copy that on the other side. Somewhere to sneak it. Good. So then coal is really easy. That's just a blue belt this direction. In, and then conveniently this is also on the same location, so then this is just symmetrically can be the same. We can delete all this extra stuff, and there we go. We got all the crude coming in here. Perfect. And so then got a lot of room to work with down here, so I can definitely make this more compact so we can bring this whole thing down. But what I need to do is I need to get this here to come in to this side. So that will remove a little bit of this extra spacing that I don't need. So we'll remove this. And let's bring this over like this maybe. 1, 2, and then perfect. This can nicely just sneak around. Perfect. That comes in there. And the other side's flipped, so I'll have to delete this whole belt and all this stuff up here because this is going to be weird. So let me just let this all run through for a second. Actually, this should be fine, right? Like, once this is flipped, you know what? Let's just try it. Don't make things overly complicated. Just try it. Just try it. And we'll go in there. Up. And, oh, perfect. And I can even remove these markers because we no longer need them. Why I put them always there is just to make it easier for me to actually visualize where everything is at. Here we go. Okay, so now, so this we could even bring even further down completely, and we could probably get it to nest like almost all the way down here. Is this off by one? Nope, that's all connected. Fantastic. Even bring this in a little bit more. Cool. So now what I need to do is, before I make this more compact, let's see what we can fit up here. So before we said we're going to go and do these modules, so let's fit those in there. And then I can pretty easily fit these in here and have like a red line and a green line and just have two inserters. I could have them split and be on the same belt. Let's try it first without splitting the belt. And let's just have this just simple and just keep it really simple here. So that would be red. And then I can remove this. Let's have one more here. And I know that this will fit over spacing wise, so that's perfect. So that would mean that I could just easily just have 1, 2. And then what I could do as well is I could do the exact same thing here. 1, 2. It's more inserters, but that also might be easier condition wise to do this. Cool. All right. Well, dare I say that was easy. And all right, so kind of thinking ahead. This is so simple. It's just that. Oh, that's beautiful. I was like, it's meant to be. So we just need like one more beacon in here just to get this all the way up to 10. But you could probably just even sneak in here. Now I'll get is 10.6, and let's see if I can get a slightly better ratio. That's 9.91. Ooh. How about this? Oh, that's exactly 10. Perfect. Okay. So then we can do this and bring this up here. Bring this down here. And then this should touch both sides. We're at exactly 10. Look at that. Don't you love it when a plan just comes together? And as you're seeing is because we're producing exactly the amount that we need, this belt is now always kind of just having exactly 1/2, even though we haven't even balanced anything. And that's just naturally kind of happening now because of this inserter. Just kind of, this is cool. This is perfect. I love this. So then we can copy this here, and I will remove all these pipes. Love it when a plan comes together. Awesome. So now we just need to do some inserter magic. So just, again, just clocking everything, and then I could probably... This one doesn't have a red wire at all, so I could bridge over this line with connection symbols for this. So I'm going to make this here a filter inserter for that. Filter inserter for that, just visually to see this. Red, perfect. Then, let's see, I'll grab a decider combinator here. And I keep forgetting that I've already pre-put this in my inventory to make this easy for me. So we're going to monitor. I'm going to say effectively that this one is the lead because it's inserting down here. I don't think it really matters, but it fits nicely in here, so. And then we can do this, connect this here. So we will say we'll have one condition for red. We'll have a condition for green. And then in here, the max stack size automation insertion limit is 45. It takes 5 for each. So that means that the max output would be effectively like 9 that it could put out, right? I think that's right. Yeah. So we would have to also limit these inserters then to 8. So we can do that. And then I can just flip this to make this easy. So the productivity modules is greater than or equal to 8. Then I'm going to send a check mark up to both of those. So let's just go ahead and do that one. That one's an easy one. There we go. So they should always pick up 8, and then the next 16, and drop. Perfect. So then the next one that I'm going to want to do is the inputs for this. So also realizing I'm probably not going to have enough power reaching all the way over here, so let's just add another one here. This is easy. And where does this one come in? Oh, this is like so completely overkill to do it this way, but why not? And then this one, oh, that gives enough power from down there. Perfect. Doesn't even matter. Cool. I do have to make sure that I can connect the power everywhere. But it seems like this has power feeding from down here and then coming up there. This area doesn't need power. Great. So, then what I'm going to need is, let's see, so it's 45, so 45 minus 16. And output a check mark. And we will send this with red wire here, red wire there. So they just swing together. And then this is the same condition, so 29. Because they stack to the same amount. So again, check mark. And I will do a green wire for this one because it's a green circuit. Is that a good reason? No. Is it the reason I'm using? Yeah. So, perfect. And this actually kind of works out because these are always going to prefer the inside lane, as you're seeing out here. And these don't care, they'll just pick one of them up. So that actually works out great. That's why you're seeing this always constantly not going on the inside here. It's kind of cool. I like it how this is working out. This is pretty decent. So you could... The only problem is if you ever have back pressure like this lane will fill up. So that's not a safe assumption to make every time. This will work while it's running until eventually it stops. So I could split both belts. I'm not going to bother. It's good enough. And then I could run some power wires across here and get it to the other side. I am going to go the lazy route, and I am just going to copy the whole thing. And then move this over. Do I have anything else that's going to block it? No. Perfect. And flip. I press an H and place it in there. So now these should just consistently pick things up from the belt. And down here, got enough constantly floating down here to get these just need 100 each. So that's perfect. Doesn't keep on running down here. Constant production. Nothing's backing up. Well, this one should back up occasionally. That makes sense just because of the fact that this is slightly overproducing, and that's okay. Cool. So then I think I can take this whole thing and move it down a significant chunk. So let's just see how far I can get this down. So let's copy just this line here, or let's go to the top, cut, and take this here. And I need to press copy because I'm going to remove all the cargo wagon shenanigans that we're doing. Copy this. Trains. Perfect. Delete everything on the top. And let's just bring this down until it's literally the limit. Something like this. And let's just see how far I can get this down. Oh, wow. Okay. Could I get it one more down like this? Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. So that's going to be fine for red. And then can I remove this? And okay, perfect. Look how compact that is. That's awesome. This is even kind of looking like a robot of sorts. I'm liking that. That's awesome. Okay, so that's pretty compact. Dang compact now. So let's see what happens now with these, because I kind of placed these and awesome. All right, this is just perfect. This is just perfectly going to align on the sides and feed all the rest of the module for the head module that we're going to need. This is turning into a great build. I'm so excited for this. Alrighty, and we can just connect the other side the same way, just with the extra furnaces, but I don't think we're going to need them. Sad that I have all this extra dead space. I don't know, I'll put something. You know what? It gives me the ability to put roboports in there, so that's a good thing. So, easily, that can be placed in there. We have an easy spot up here for a roboport. Yep, like that. Cool. And the reason I'm adding roboports is just mainly so that I can easily go and build the whole thing. So then, cool. All right. So we got a pretty compact, well, relatively speaking, module here. All right, so for the final bit, what we're going to be doing is creating now the actual science. So we've done all the hard work, getting all the inputs that we're going to need. We've done the math. Hopefully the math was right. So at this point, these are going to be all the inputs that we're going to have. And we know that because if we go back over here, these are those 3 lanes of steel and stone. It's going to be a little bit less than that, but that's effectively what we're going to be having on both of those sides. And so they're not going to be full lanes, but we'll design around the full lanes initially. And we'll assume the first 2 are always full, and the outside is then just auxiliary, just when we need it. Then we're also going to have some iron inputs, so iron is going to be on the inside, and then this is going to be the outside, and then finally we're going to have a lane that is going to be both the furnaces and the productivity modules. So that is what we're going to be working with now. So what I'm thinking for this, and the way that I've been kind of thinking about this is like, I'd really like a chain that kind of forms like this, right? So something like this, let's grab inserter, kind of goes directly in here. I'd like to have a furnace that directly goes in there, and that should be enough, right? Because, and let's go ahead and add all the speed beacons around there, at least as many as we possibly can, and we can work out the spacing afterwards, right? So ideally what I'd like is, I'd like to get at least 11 around this building here. Like, I don't think we're going to need a total amount of 11. I think we could honestly just get away with 10. Because, and here's kind of why I'm thinking that. Because, like, at the ratio, like, if we do this here, right, and we completely surround it with beacons like I'm doing here, this goes very quickly. So, really, if I completely surround it, and I'm not going to do this unless I'm doing everything via belts, this is going to get me to the point where I get to 240. I'm going to need 13 buildings. So if I take one of these away, and again, go to 13, so that's going to be just over 245. So, and that's great, because that's all that we really need to like have the least number of buildings, but it's an awkward number. It's 13. I can try to see if we can get to that point where we just have one, but ultimately, like, I'd like to rather kind of focus a little bit more around the concept of, and also this is not correct here. Let's go ahead and add this guy in. I'd like this to be kind of the case. So I'd like this to feed directly into these. And I know that just at the speed that this is going, I'd rather have less of these raw buildings and then rather just have one extra kind of like this. Because, again, we can even like make this a little bit closer. The reason I'm thinking that is just intuitively, I know that this is going to be already like over ratioed here for this. So this already, one building can easily directly insert into both of these, and it will not have an issue at all. And we could add some more beacons onto this and make this a little bit faster, and we can try to continue to go from there. But I already know, like, just ratio-wise, this is already pretty good. And we'd only need then, let's see, 9 of these modules. So that'd be effectively then 9 on each side. We can probably do a little bit better than that and get some more beacons in here. So let's try that. So that already gets us up to 7 on both sides, and now we're just slightly under ratioed. Well, that's fine. We can easily go and put some more in there, but we can continue to add more beacons like this. And we could even go down and add one more in like this. But I don't think we necessarily need this, and the reason being because I would ultimately like it if I can take these inputs and directly insert them into here. And then, kind of thinking about it, I kind of like them also on the top, but then flipped because they're going to be alternating like this. So steel, stone, steel, stone. That way it's evenly taking from both sides of the belt. And so this gets us here, and that's pretty good. And then this extra beacon kind of is not that useful. So I'm trying to come up with like a concept where I'm going to get enough beacons around this to produce the science at kind of a rate that I want to, but then not ultimately compromise too much on the final design. So let's try this. Let's go here, and then okay, this is not gonna work because there's not enough beacons on it. So do this 154. Yeah, that's basically at ratio there. And then that's just like pulling off of a belt. That's kind of convenient because we could clock these and just insert occasionally from both sides. That's not too bad. And then this kind of all works out here. I'm wondering if I can get any more beacons to touch this with this kind of direct insertion design like this. It's like, right? Like, ultimately what I'm trying to aim for is, because we can continue to add more beacons here, this is fine. So if I take this, and then let's say I shift all this down one, that's going to allow me to pretty easily, if I took this here as an input, come in like this. So, and we can, at this point, this is now under, but then we could easily just have this on the other side here, and then, yeah, we should be fine. So the reason I'm thinking this is, like, I want to leave an extra space for one more of these, because, like, ultimately this isn't going to be enough, and we need one extra at some point to come and merge in. So I'd like to leave enough space to have this in here. So just keeping that in mind, the final thing that I'm kind of thinking about is, because, like, if I do it this way, right, and I say, okay, I'm going to just maximize the number of beacons that are around one of these instead, then I really can only have the inputs for this. That's fine, that can be reduced. And then we kind of go to the point of just kind of like maximizing how much is going in here. And then to get this at ratio here, this will now make 18 per second. So 10 of those will make 180, so let's go 14. Yeah, it's close enough. So again, we're at that 13 ratio. So that means that, like, effectively I'm gonna need double, like, this direct insertion won't work anymore. So I'd like to, ultimately, I'd like to have a ratio where I just have 4 of these electric furnaces, 4 of these per side. And then those would feed into 2. So it'd be like a basically 4 banks going into 2, so like 4 banks that feed 8 of these assemblers. And I think that's fine. And well, maybe I'll try another design concept as well that I'll go just for benchmarking it and testing it. But I think, like, for the intents and purpose of this design, I think this is going to be good enough. And to create this, because this is now in excess of 3, we're going to need at least 2 inserters feeding both steel and stone to pull off of this belt continuously. So that's where I just start running into space constraints. We could maybe do some silo chesting nonsense again, but I'm not going to do that for this part. So I think this is fine. What I'm going to try to do then is I'm going to try to just get as many of these kind of around here as possible. We can even move this down a little bit and then just kind of fit this all in here. And then I could even move this just to make that symmetrical just up here. That gives me plenty of space just to pull from the belt. And then that's pretty easy because that's just this input. And then we go here and we'll grab this one. So then that just immediately starts crafting all of this. And I'm going to put efficiency modules in there. Just why not? There's no reason and it's not going to harm anything. And so then this will get to the 3.09. I'm also just curious if, like, because we're also going to need some more inputs here. So get to that next. So we're going to need an input here. And we're going to do this same thing. We're going to copy this. I will place this here. And then there. And then we will have these feeding in 1, 2. And then this can just easily output. So we will kind of do a non-blocking design like we did before. So then I'll just copy this over here so that we have the nice little labels. And then I'm going to put over here, this will be iron sticks. And this will be iron plates. And so forth. Iron ore. Okay, nicely labeled everywhere, and that's just rails, and I can't grab rails to do this easily, so I'll just put this in here. 1, 2, perfect. So now I'm gonna want then on the inside here, was what I'm thinking. That's gonna be the line that's gonna carry this, and this will also do what I was talking about in the previous video of non-blocking, where these can just then directly always go on the inside lane here. And this is kind of convenient then because I kind of have an exact line for these, and these. And so what I'm thinking with that is, even though this is going to be kind of gross, I'm going to want to carry those signals across. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of wires in here like this. And then I'm going to just remove all the wires by shift right or shift left clicking and then connect them all up like this. That way I can easily go and connect here a green wire, and this is going to be an output, so that's going to be a red wire. And then this is going to be I'm just going to continue to alternate. This can be another output, so we can call this one easily just a red. And then I can also pretty easily, because like the ratio is the same for stone and steel, I can just have them all connected up. And it looks like I already have some circuit conditions on there, so that's fine. So we'll just let this stop now. And then for this is going to be, you can consider this an output or consider this an input. It doesn't really matter here. I'm going to consider this here on this line to be, because I'm already going to have red connected here and green. This is going to be red and green already. So this one's only going to have one. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to do red for this. And then finally, this is going to be an output on here. So I'll connect these two up. That'll be red. And then we're going to have an input here. So that'll be green. They all have then connections. So now we're going to need a whole bunch of constant combinators in here. So let's figure out the first one. Let's start all the way at the beginning and work our way forward. So we're gonna need one there, there, there. We're gonna need an input for steel, or these two, which I want to connect together. We're gonna need one then also for inputting from here. So I'll just connect all of these up so that they're reconnected to the ones that we want. Make sure these are all reading contents. I think I already had those pre-selected for this. Good. And then that can go there, and then finally we can have an output, which I can snake up that way, that's fine. And then I will have also a input coming in from this side. So that's going to read here, that's going to read there, and this is already reading the contents, great. So that's going to be red there, green there. And to make this simpler, I can just connect them directly to the power poles now. I don't need to go any more than that. This... Nah, I take that back. I'm going to connect it directly in here. It's a little bit less of a distance to go. This one's going to be red. Great. And then this is going to be green here. And then alternating red, red, and green. Cool. Got all the conditions. So, automation insertion limit is 39. I'm just going to go and say then in here, whenever this is less than 39 minus 16, done, and check mark. And I'm just going to go ahead and say check, good. And then we'll do the same thing. I'll just copy this over to make it easier. And for this, I think this will be overproducing most of the time. Even though this is under, but this is 322 and this only needs 71. So I'm actually going to reverse this. I'm going to monitor from here. And I'm going to monitor whenever this one needs to be connected. So we'll say in here, this is the iron stick here. So like whenever, so this is automation search limit is 96. So I will just say whenever this is less than 96 minus 16, done. Cool. Now for this one, we are again going to be overproducing. So I'm going to flip this around. We're going to monitor from here. So I'll flip this or even just rotate this to make that obvious. And I could actually just align all these. That'll be nice. So here, this is pretty simple now. It's just whenever this, and you're seeing that the limit is 91 when it's slightly above that, but that's fine. So we're going to say 91 minus 16 again. Cool. And our favorite check mark. And that's all connected. This all is all going to need check marks now. Good. And then we're going to need one in here, which is going to connect and control these. So I'll move this around and then we can move these. So these are all just saying go up in the direction. So I kind of like doing that for everything. Let's just go ahead and just rotate that. And that'll just be the directional flow to kind of make it hopefully a little bit more obvious what these circuits are doing. And I'll disconnect this and just clean this up here. So now for this, I need to monitor stone and I need to monitor steel. Either one of these can be the lead. So I know like the automated insertion limit is 91. So I'm going to say this is less than 91 minus 16. And then I'm going to output a check mark. This one should just kind of follow along because the other one's going to run. And you can see that this is exactly outputted to the same amount because both of these are going to swing. So that's fine. I'll just have an extra condition where this is less than, I don't know, like let's just say 16 or something. Just so that in the case that you ever get to a case where you don't have the steel for some reason and it locks up, it should never happen, but just in case, we'll have this just as a backup. That's good. Then the next one is, this is going to overproduce. So what I want to do is monitor this guy instead. And for here, I'm going to say whenever this is less than, and let's see what the limit here is. This is 120. So 120 minus 16. Perfect. And output a check mark. And then finally here, these still need a condition. So I'm going to say for this, it's either the productivity modules is less than, what is the insertion limit here? That is 4. So, and we just need 1, 2, so okay. Let's try, because this is kind of tough. I've already capped these at 4 so that they always run. I'll just try less than 2 just to like see if that will work. And then I'll have this is less than to do it, and then we'll just put a check mark out. And then here we just now need a final condition for the science output. So since this is the limiting factor here, is these can stack up to 4, and each one that you create is going to create 3 on the output. That means that this could be stacking up to 12. So what I want to do then is I'm going to set for this, I'm going to override the stack size to, I'll just keep it at 16, that's fine. But when I monitor this, I'm going to say that this is greater than or equal to 8. Because then they will consistently just swing effectively just on the mark. So they'll pick up and then drop consistently. And these should never, in theory, stop. So let's see what happens if, let's try 2 here. So it looks like this one just happened to take the lead. That's fine. Okay, so that looks good. This is constantly running right now. We could set the stack size even lower and only grab 2 at a time, but that seems kind of odd. Because it needs like 2.5 per second, so then every single 60 ticks that's going to swing, and I'd rather it just be slightly higher. I wonder if we can get this to be a little bit... Nah, let's just stick with this. That's fine. It'll just grab occasionally when it needs to, and it grabs both of them, it looks like each time. 4 at a time. So that would mean that effectively it would be swinging every 2 seconds. Let's try to bump this up to 8. Yeah, so we can kind of exceed the inputs here. That's not bad. So then they're swinging a little bit less often. Does that work then for this one up here? Yeah, that's completely fine. And let's try finally 16. So it seems like the stack inserters can get it, it's just we gotta wait for this one to synchronize with it. So it has a slight little blip there. Let's see if that over time will kind of work itself out. Alright, that's not bad. It looks fine. We may have to tune that number a little bit as we continue to run the science, but this should be in a good spot. So this should be tileable now. So let's try this. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to tile this a couple times. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to paste it up there. But I'm going to remove all... Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. All the beautiful electric wires are going everywhere. So I'm going to just remove all the power connections for right now. And then I will deal with it later. So what I'm going to want to do now here is I will have this as an output. Let me just design 2 of these. Let me copy this again. And here come all the wonderful electric wires again in. So that's perfect. I'm going to connect all these, so all the green wires together. And then the red wires together. Here as well. Here as well. So now everything in here should be connected. It looks like they are. Red is all the way coming back. These are all green, all connected all up here. And these are all up here. Good. Everything seems to have its place. So I'm going to then, in this, I'll just have this as an output for the science so that I can just watch it run once this whole thing stops eventually. And so then what I'm going to do here is, now that I have all these connected, I am going to very easily here just copy this and bring it back 1. And now all the wires should be connected. Good. So now all those green and red wires all connected up. So what I want to monitor for is any of these stopping working. But it seems like, and this is just with any potential gaps in the belt, once there's back pressure on it and it stops moving like this, these should be able to just flow constantly through. So we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on that and potentially tune these stack sizes accordingly. But we're going to need at least 1 more of these, because this is going to make, what did we say, 90. So to get to 120, so each of these, right, I think we're going to need 4. Yeah. So then very simply, we copy the thing that we had a second ago and paste it. And then it should come out here. And we should start seeing the very first problem, which is, this is why we have that extra lane of inputs. Yeah, we're going to eventually start having gaps forming on the belt here. Those little white lines. Okay, so to solve that, that's because at some point here down the middle, we need to merge this so that we're basically going to feed both these sides. So that's why I had this side here kind of laid out already, specifically for this, so we can pass in 1 more. And so I think we can pretty easily, I could just move this over 1, that's fine. And then I can kind of run these right alongside it, which would be kind of nice. And so I'm already starting to notice a gap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here. I'm going to grab a splitter, take the output priority feed to the left, and then I am going to want to route this one completely empty, block it off, that's fine. But then I'm going to want to kind of connect this in somehow like that. So let's see how I can most easily do that. So we could bring this, we could go in here and have this kind of coming in like that maybe. And then I could have this in here. That's still not going to fit. Oh, we could just easily move this over. Done. And then I don't even need that because I can just do this. Boom. These are blinking occasionally, so... But they shouldn't really have to. So I'm thinking I've got something incorrect in here. Oh, right. I need to copy check marks. That's really important. There we go. There's my inconsistency. Thought something looked weird. Okay, there we go. Now we have constant just movement on the belt. That's exactly what we wanted. And as we're seeing on the outside here, this is perfectly just filling this lane, and this one just runs occasionally. Perfect. So now we can take this whole entire stack here on the side, and... Wait, there was a little gap. Why? So let me mess with this. Let me mess with a little bit of the stack sizes here. Alright, I'm just going to go with 4. We'll call it a day. Not 14, that's such a weird number. Yeah, that's solid. Cool. Good enough. All right, so that's all set up for us. Then we just need to copy it. And wire hell is going to happen. Ay, 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 ay. So let's remove all these. All right, so I've added now the power distribution in here, and oh, I'm missing one. Let me just add that one. Okay, great. So now from a pattern-wise, this is all connected. All the little wires are connected. I kind of just like the pattern. I think that's good enough. So now I've just side-loaded this because it's not fully symmetrical, so it's not easy to like go in and bring it in like this, for example. So I've just decided to do that just to keep it symmetrical, and it'll load to the side. And then you can decide as an end user just kind of how you want it to be laid out. So one way or another, to the right, to the left, I don't really care. One way or another, you can go do that. You could merge them a little bit closer, so why not just bring them in? Cool. And then those will constantly basically just run here. And so this makes now just barely over 120. This makes just barely over 120. So good. This is a good setup. Let's go and perform the wedding. For those who don't know what the wedding is, that is a concept from auto manufacturing, where when you're in the assembly line, they will connect everything all together at the very end and form the final connection. So let's go ahead and do that now. So let's see, I'm going to try to get this kind of as close as possible. And we can figure out the roboports later. Delete this. Let's bring this in. I need a... That will already get me the power, so that's pretty decent. Let's have this all back up, all this back up. And I need to get this over here, so I could just go here. So I need 3 lanes. And then I could remove these labels because I don't need those. I know what's going to go there. So that could then remove this, allow this here to go all the way over. The only annoying part is just that I need a little bit of space there. That's fine. We can break the rule and put that up there. We'll figure out a better spot for it afterwards. So over and then in. And I could just move this here. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I will copy the same thing over there so I don't have to remember it later. And then that will work, and I need to bring these in right here. And then that gives me enough space for all 3 of these to perfectly fit right there. Great. And then a little optimization that we can make is just run these like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you go and delete all of the individual small ones. I'm just doing this for when you're looking at it in the map view. This will help you with just at least some of the render graphics of just rendering this amount of material that's coming across. We'll copy this all the way over. Is this the max length? It is. Great. So we'll do that, and we'll copy that in there and in there. And then I can just delete all these extras here. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to cap the end off. This is what I just recommend to do with any of these builds, is let this run until everything downstream stops. So now everything has stopped. Everything has reached its max buffer state. And now everything should be consistently coming out, since everything should be at a ratio. But that one slight hiccup in the beginning. Look at that. That is a constant stream of purple science. Awesome. Let this run for a little bit. Just make sure this is consistent. Seems like we're good. I'm going to monitor a couple things. I'm going to press F5 here. I'm going to trace this back. This should be completely fine because it's exactly at ratio. But this should be consistently always refilling the belt, which it is, so that's good. And these should always be consistently following the same pattern, which they are. These should be outputting at the same pattern, which they are. And let's look at our magic balancer from hell. Is it holding up? These lanes are all running constantly. These lanes are all running constantly. It's stone is a little bit excess, but just barely, so that's fine. That means we're just gonna be input limited down here. And then this is constantly flowing, which is what I want to see. And these lanes are consistent, and that little extra makeup that happened with this left-hand side, even though there was, at least if you look at this side, right, there's that little bit of gap spacing, but because the downstream is exactly at ratio, these flow perfectly with just this one extra one just filling in the gap when needed. Okay, perfect. All right, we got a good design here, I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a copy, and I'm gonna just go ahead and say I'm not gonna use this one on the left, on the right at all. I'm gonna go ahead and just say goodbye, because we don't need those extra 2 furnaces. Yay! Okay, so I have 3 different designs, and I'm gonna explain why there's a third that has magically appeared. So the version that you saw here on the left, this was the original Purple Science build. You can see just how much longer this is and how much more compact we've made it. So that's already way better. So this is the final version that we just designed in the previous video and in this one as well. What is this one in the middle that exists? Well, this is gonna be an honest A-Buck moment. I do design these things before I go show them on camera. So you're gonna see a lot of similarities between this design and this design. Some of these things were worked out. Now the clocking is a little bit different on some of these, and not all of them, but the positions are a little bit different. That's because when I actually go and design it with everyone here, I do it live. And I've actually found, fascinatingly enough, that when I do that and I explain it out loud to people, I actually come up with better designs. So actually, when I was designing this, I realized that I could just cut out these extra 2 steel furnaces from the design altogether and it should work. So that got removed. The belt balancing magic here I had already figured out previously, and so I had already that to go off of, but because of this extra room, now I can make all this symmetrical. And the same kind of goes up here, so you'll see that the green circuit design here is a little bit different than what I actually wound up creating in the video. And I actually wound up creating in the video way better controls for all the different conditions here. So this outputs a lot more consistently, and you can also notice here just I didn't need the mess that I created from the green to red transition, and I actually cleaned it up significantly. What I've kind of found that actually as I go through explaining a video to people, I wind up creating a substantially better design in the end. So actually just thank you for having interest in this, because it kind of forces me to learn and get a little bit better with my designs. So that actually allowed us, because we made this whole section so much smaller, that allowed us to shrink this, get this perfectly at ratio, where you can see this was not perfectly at ratio, and neither was this down here. So just through this iteration process, now this is perfectly at 10, these are exactly at 10 as well. So I'm actually going to benchmark this older version that I had pre-designed, and also just look at how much more compact this red circuit design is than this. This is a chaotic mess. This is a lot cleaner. So I'm kind of finding that as I design these things, and again, just look at the difference here of this original stack that I created versus the one that I made in the video. So I found that I used some of the designs as a reference point, as a proof of concept, to help me kind of understand and figure out what I need to do before I actually go and record the video. But then in the process of communicating it and talking with a live audience about it, I wind up actually just creating an overall better design each time. So and that's a thank you to all of you. So, well, we'll see in a second if benchmark-wise if this is better. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this version here, the original version, with all the gross silos that are all in here. And I'm not even going to put the space platforms above it. I am just going to straight run them against each other. So I'm going to create some benchmarks for these, and then we'll compare the results. After the results are done, I'm going to put it into my actual base, and then we can see this run in real time. So stick around for that. All right, so I ran the benchmark and I executed it effectively 10 runs per save file for 5,000 ticks. I'm not including a couple extra ones, so I'm just going to go through these already right here. Then again, just kind of shout out to Blousy on my Discord channel. He wound up creating this belt tool, and it's honestly just saved me so much time, and he just released a change that allows you to automatically generate the charts that you're seeing here in front of you. So now I don't even have to go and access Google Sheets to go and generate these files. So now it's like, basically he just made my life a lot easier. So just want to say thank you to him specifically. So without further ado, let's get into the benchmarks. So I wound up creating 4 different save files. So I created one that was the original version that I currently have in my Megabase. Then I created a 2.1, which is the one that I talked about, which was the one before I actually went through the entire video of explaining all the different changes that I'm going to make, and then ultimately creating the better version at the end. And it's better because, well, I've already taken a sneak peek at the preview, so I already know that it's a little bit better. Not by much, but a little bit better, and also just like overall size-wise, it's definitely better. So the question about UPS is, we'll get into that. So I ran this 10 times, 5,000 ticks a piece. I wound up just scaling this so that it was creating 3.45 million uncommon signs per minute raw. So that was just to get a overall average millisecond time of over at least 2 milliseconds. That's what I'm normally shooting for, but I just went way above that just to get like at least a heavy load on the CPU. And then I also included, just for fun, a landfill version. So what if you stuck around for the previous video and you saw that there, I designed a new version of voiding stone, and I was curious about like the UPS efficiency of that. So diving into the charts, we're seeing that effectively the landfill version of it definitely won out. So the 2.3 version, I'm just calling that 2.3, that's the one that I actually designed in this video live for everyone to see. That one got 300 UPS on average, and the 2.1, which is the one I designed before, got about 2 UPS less than that. So not a huge improvement, but still an improvement that is notable. So if I look at this kind of, and again, just shout out to Blousy, he created this wonderful kind of new kind of standard deviation chart. One of the things that I'm noticing just about the landfill version is that although there's a couple outliers here, the overall distribution was a lot tighter than other versions that were here. So that gives me a little bit more confidence that this version was a little bit better. So this is a box and whisker plot if people are kind of curious about what this chart is. Again, this is all on my GitHub, so you can just go and read this and look at the data itself. I've got like a CSV file that will be always uploaded in all of these GitHub repos, and you can just go and read the raw CSV files if you're curious about the individual actual scores and what each of these runs were. So you can go and see the UPS numbers, execution time, etc. So continuing on, what was it in percent improvement? Well, what's interesting is just the overall build itself was already over 15% better. So the one that I actually designed in this video was an improvement already over the previous version, but it's interesting to me, like the main difference that's there is I made some slight tweaks in clocking, and I also removed 2 furnaces. So it didn't make a huge improvement, but still it's an improvement, and any improvement in UPS is beneficial. So overall, we made a bigger improvement there, but like by far, the landfill design for upcycling, or rather voiding stone, was so much more efficient. So that specifically, just adding basically the landfill voiding method, that was 15% better. And that honestly shocked me. I did not think that there would be that drastic of a difference. I mean, I know from the previous benchmark that I showed in the previous video that it was 75% better, but I didn't think that of the entire build that we spent so much more time investing in, that actually focusing on the stone upcycler had effectively the same improvement, even though I spent less time working on that, than the entire design of the new Purple Science setup. So it's kind of giving me an interesting kind of conclusion that I'm getting into, and I have written it here. I don't know why it's not showing up in the preview. Let me see if I can update this, but if it doesn't, that's fine. I can just explain it if it doesn't show up here. Okay, it just seems like it just was desynced for a little bit. That's fine. So in conclusion, what that means for me is that this kind of is proving a hypothesis that I have, that the mining voiding rig is one of the most UPS expensive parts of this entire setup. And any improvements that we can make in these designs will have a major impact on the UPS efficiency of Q2 Science. So I have been experimenting with some things that we can do to void some of the iron ore and copper ore, but honestly, like the stone is probably the easiest one to void. The other two are not easy. I've tried a bunch of different things. Like I've tried going and creating it into liquid, and it was like 5% more UPS efficient, but then you have to ship in a whole bunch more calcite to go and do that. So I'm not going to cover that in a video because it's like the logistics of having to send that much more calcite into Novice just didn't make sense for all the mining setups that are there. But something that I want to continue to explore is that it seems like just from this test here, having this much of a difference in just by adding that landfill voider means that, like, I'm happy that we did it because that means we have an overall a 30% UPS improvement for uncommon purple science, which is major. But that makes me kind of wonder then about like more copper heavy or iron heavy builds, if we can do anything to go and create a more UPS efficient version of that. So if you think that you have a better UPS or more efficient version of a design, please let me know, or comment in my Discord or on the YouTube channel here and send me like a link to a BP. I would love to check it out. I'll be continuing to explore that as we go, but that just means like ultimately that's something that I want to focus on and try to find ways to more efficiently remove these materials. So that seems like to be such a huge benefit to this. So that's it. I'm going to go now and put it in my base, and then I will meet you after that long process is done. All right, so we've stabilized at this point. We're running back at the full speed again. I have completely swapped out purple science down here. So if we go and take a look at this and take a peek, let's look at the first thing that we covered in yesterday's video. I've incorporated now all the new mining rigs, so those are now fully just pulling everything in the whole bunch of basically stone that we need for this. So all 40 lanes. So just for fun, that's 40 times 240 per second. That's 9,600 per second times 60. So that's 576,000 uncommon stone that we are piping through on these belts. So that is all, and I've changed this now to all be underground so that this is easier to visually look at. Before I had a significant UPS drop when I would look at this. Now this is a lot easier. So just if you ever have not a UPS drop, but an FPS drop, and if your FPS drops, then your UPS also drops. So that's definitely a thing to do. Just use undergrounds. You hide the fact that you're transporting just, effectively 88 lanes of material. We'll just, this is a good time. So with that all being said, I'm not convinced that purple science is better in the uncommon flavor compared to common, just because just the sheer amount of furnaces that you wind up needing to actually make this work, where we know that we can use foundries if it's common. So, but the benefit that kind of comes from it is that basically everything downstream this direction can all be common. It's basically going to be the exact same build. There isn't a single thing in here that you couldn't go and produce in common. The only difference is you would swap out these furnaces and you would basically replace them all for foundries. So any furnace that you wind up seeing you can make for foundries except for these. So this module would stay exactly the same in common, and versus uncommon, this would all stay the same. And then basically everything up here I'm thinking would effectively be the same. The only difference is I probably remove all these furnaces and just swap them out for foundries, or just run a belt. So that would be effectively how I would wind up running this. So with that being said, the one thing that I wanted to point out, once I actually implemented this here on Novice, I found kind of a big problem. So in the editor world, everything worked really nicely. The problem is that it didn't work 100% perfectly here, and that's because once this belt backed up, this side would start to choke out. And that's because down here, the red circuit was all tied together and we only had one lead. And so what would kind of happen is that you would have inputs that would come in from here, and they all kind of come in from the left-hand side and they'd feed in. So they'd always favor, and that's just because I'm not going straight up and down. Once I connected all these belts and just kind of over time started to add the belts back in, and the bots delivered everything, this side would effectively always be favored, would completely stack up. And actually what would happen is if you had any, what actually happened was the steel wound up not having an input at all on the right hand side. And so then these would all stop because we had enough of the electric furnaces. And so the moment that this stopped, red circuit stopped flowing, and when red circuit stopped flowing, then this side also stopped flowing, and then we didn't get any more productivity modules. That was really bad. So the way that I did this is now I have completely isolated these two sides, and I'm going to update the blueprints to reflect that. It's just basically two extra combinators that are here, so to basically completely isolate this. So that actually just removes that particular coupling problem, and just will make it easier for you to actually integrate it in your own base if you actually wind up wanting to use this. So this is why we ship things to actual production, try things out in our actual bases so that we can get an understanding of what works, what doesn't work, etc. So anyway, so purple science is done. So what's next? Well, we're done with purple science, blue science, red science, military science, and green science. We've done that in all the previous videos. So the only thing that's left is utility science. I would like to take another quick peek at that at some point and see if we can make any UPS optimizations there. But what I'm trying to answer is the question, is uncommon worth it? I don't know. I'm assuming so. This is working pretty good. But is it actually better than common? So I'd like to incorporate that with a new lab design, so that's probably going to be the next thing that I'm going to focus on, so that I can create a more optimal lab setup. I'd like to take all the novice sciences and feed them in from the back. Right now they're all being fed in from the top, so that takes a whole bunch of space away from the cargo landing hub. And then that also means that I can't easily export calcite and I have to use everything with bots. So this is really gross. I'd like to get away from this and just ultimately redesign this. This is just band-aid after band-aid that I've been putting in here, just hoping that eventually I can make everything a little bit smoother. And it just basically, as I transitioned from a common science to uncommon, I just completely retrofitted this and I just need to take it with fresh eyes and redesign it. So, and also just my labs are terrible. I'm only using 13 beacons when I could be using 16, so I can remove a whole bunch of extra labs and reduce the number that I have here. So after this is redesigned, I want to then effectively go and test for each of the sciences which of these perform better in the common flavor and the uncommon once you actually feed them into labs. So that's going to be an exploration that I'm going to be doing over the next probably couple weeks. So stay tuned and subscribe and follow if you're interested in more content like that and also the results. So I'm going to be posting also regular updates in my Discord channel as I get more updates and just more things that I find. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and join. And then other than that, my name is abucnasty. Have a fantastic day, and thank you for watching this probably incredibly long video. Anyway, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.